全然結果が違うじゃねえか。どういう脚力だよ。
すまないかな。
パートナー精霊不在の精霊騎士夏木スバル。
牽制の家系ラインハルト・バン・アストレア。
この結婚式に物申す。
All right, my friends, we have ReZERO. This was episode number 8 of season 3, and I think this was the best episode of the season so far. So that's right, I'm not coming out here to be completely negative, although I still hate the Archbishops and the cults, and I hate this storyline. I can't wait till this arc is over, but I genuinely think, and yeah, I don't even think, it's a fact. To me, Wilhelm is the best written character in ReZERO. I love his origin story. I love what he represents. I love when he's on screen. I love when he interacts with Subaru. I love the story between him and his wife. I love learning more about him and his wife's relationship as it goes on. I love that we learned this episode that Reinhardt inherited the Sword Saint skill, I guess you can say, during her fight with the white whale, which is what caused her death to begin with, which is insanity. And that's why Wilhelm and Reinhardt's relationship has been very stretched over the years, is because essentially the way that Wilhelm had looked at Reinhardt for so long was that, hey, you're the cause of the love of my life's death, essentially. And he obviously has a lot of regrets, and he looks at the situation much differently now, representing big character growth and big emotional growth. And he has a lot of regrets and wants to patch up that relationship. And Reinhardt wants to patch up the relationship with his grandfather. And obviously, the same time that Wilhelm lost his wife, Reinhardt lost his grandmother. So it's a big thing, a big moment. But I love the contextual and context that it provides to Wilhelm's story and Reinhardt's story and the Van Estrella family as a whole. And I love finding out of how the skill, the Sword Saint skill, is basically passed down. And once it gets passed down through the bloodline, that's pretty much it. And I also like finding out that, you know, the Sword Demon in Wilhelm didn't obtain what he had obtained through a skill like the Van Estrellas. He did it on his own volition, which we knew that already. You know, he was trying to go and surpass her. He was trying to protect her so she didn't have to be the Sword Saint, and la la la. But I just continue to think that Wilhelm is just the best written character of the show. And he very much reminds me of the butler from Overlord. One of my favorite characters in that show. Again, Wilhelm just kind of gives me those vibes. And then it also extends to Reinhardt. Obviously, Reinhardt's one of the earliest characters in ReZERO that we got to, or that Subaru got to interact with. And thankfully so, meeting one of the most powerful characters in the world, you know, he got very lucky with that. I also really enjoyed the round table. I loved hearing their setup of, okay, Reinhardt and Subaru are going to go over and save Amelia. These guys are going to go get Lust, who's going to get Lust again? Was it Wilhelm and Garf are gonna go get Lust, and then the singing girl and the other girl, I forget what her name is, you know, they're gonna go get the other one. So they kind of split up their duties with the Archbishops. So I love hearing, you know, all their plan, and I genuinely do think that they're gonna be pretty successful. And then I did also find the Otto stuff interesting too, about, you know, his time working for whatever makeup boy's name is. I forget. Roswell. You know, as he was working for Roswell, and he got Roswell's book, and he's working on, you know, putting that book back together to find, you know, Roswell's plans, because obviously you don't want to trust this freaking dude, which makes sense. So just a lot of interesting points, and I will tell you, I was completely entertained from the beginning all the way to the end, and that hasn't happened this season. There's been points of inner contention that I've had to where I'm like, oh, this is boring, this sucks, blah, blah, blah. This episode generally was a really good episode. Probably the only sore point was Amelia's speech, as she was going to get, you know, as she was standing there to get married to Regulus or whatever, and she had the whole speech about Subaru, and she doesn't know what love is, and love is only for girls, and I was like, I thought Amelia's moment and Amelia's time this episode really sucked ass. But that's a tiny sore point on a bigger, better episode. And even with that, it was still mostly saved by Subaru's entrance. Subaru / Reinhardt's entrance as they just kicked the door down and Regulus just got hit by the door. That was a really good moment. Last thing I'll say too is Crush. I like how Subaru was able to provide her a little relief. I don't quite know the whole dragon passing the dragon stuff, but obviously they're both cursed. Subaru was able to handle the curse a little bit better than Crush, might be because of his witch's divinity, you know, all the witch, you know, all the stuff he's got going on with little arms and his blessing or curses and whatever. He's able to handle a little bit more, so he was able to take a lot of Crush's curse away from her to make her a little bit better. Her face is less gross now. So I definitely enjoyed that as well, too. So overall, I think this episode, let me not be too gracious, but let's call it an 8 out of 10. I think this was the best episode. One of the best, if not the best episode of the season. And by and large, nothing really happened, but the story I thought was really good. And again, for me, it's because Wilhelm was at the top of that, you know, leading out that story with the Van Estrella family. So I thought this episode was really good. It didn't blow me away, but it definitely in context, in comparison to the other episodes, it did blow me away. And I just really enjoyed this episode quite a bit. So I hope we get more of this, and I hope the fights are good between the different groups we have here and the Archbishops. I hope that ends up being really good. But thankfully, this episode, definitely one of the better ones. 8 out of 10. I'm going to see you guys next week for episode number 9. Yep, episode number 9, as we kind of complete this season here, or the first core. And then we did get notice that the second core is coming back in February. So look forward to that as well, too. I don't know if I'm going to cover second core. This one's been a little bit rough. But hey, if it has a strong finish, I may be there. But if this is what, at least for me on a personal level, if this is one of those flukish type episodes, I may not be back. But if this ends really strong, I may be back on the channel. So I'll see you guys next week for episode number 9. All right, my friends. Peace.